expressed on the internet would be censored.
We are live. We are live. This is real. Welcome back to Unauthorized Opinions, UOPod.com. Like, share, subscribe.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way.
I literally went to the polls with nothing in mind. I saw a can of orange soda in the parking lot. And I was like, yeah, there we go. An unopened can of orange soda just chilling in the parking lot. I was like, yeah, I got to vote for Trump, dude.
Your podcast sucks. It's mental, mate. It's absolutely mental.
I'll be honest, I thought it was kind of offensive when you talk so much about the Loch Ness Monster.
Political climate.
And Andrew, treat yourself, okay? Especially if you start, I don't know, getting in good with homeless people.
Unauthorized Opinions, streaming everywhere at uopod.com. Cock-a-doodly-doodly-doo, man. Guess who's back? Back again. Eminem's new song, I mean, it's just okay. Unauthorized Opinions. Welcome back to everybody from far and wide, coast to coast, flat earth ice wall to flat earth ice wall, points A through B, North Pole, South Pole. You are watching on YouTube, X, Rumble, or elsewhere, and you are listening on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, because we love you so very, very much. Thanks for joining us. You can always contribute through super chats on YouTube or on patreon.com/uopod. We've got lots to get to today. The title track is, unfortunately, the WNBA, and we keep talking about this because we keep talking about this because they can't help but keep shooting themselves in the foot. It's not because of the gameplay. We've, for a month now, established that, you know, you're not going to watch for the games. You're going to laugh at Caitlin Clark being better than the other players who are jealous of her and trying to kill her. But that's not what we're talking about. The most entertaining part about the WNBA is their inability to take free airplanes, endorsements, increases in ticket sales and viewership. They are unable to take this and be happy and to put it inside their 6'5" hearts, which of course are larger than the rest of our hearts, and use that giant heart of theirs to be able to love and appreciate. But no, they are using it for anger and social justice. And we've spoken for weeks about how the other players have said, you know, it's a race thing. Our planes aren't big enough. Our shoes aren't cool enough. I don't have enough endorsements. Then we've heard weird things like Caitlin Clark is privileged because she's white and pretty. And then we went backwards like the Matrix because that one just went over our heads in confusion. But this week we have something newer and better and brighter. It comes from a fellow rookie. In fact, it was the number 2 overall pick of the WNBA. And if you're sick of the WNBA, just stick with me here. You're going to want to hear this. We're not watching highlights. We're not talking about The View. So this comes from the 2nd overall pick named Cameron Brink. She is a 6'4" beast. She's a monstrous individual. And not in appearance, I'm just saying she's really tall for a girl. She had something to say. She gave an interview to Up Rocks. And I'm going to go ahead and assume this website's run by a woman because only women... only a girl creates a website where she spells word with 2 X's, unless it's pornography, of course. But Up Rocks, you go girl, interviews this girl Cameron Brink on defying tired WNBA narratives and how she made some woman laugh. I think that's an NBA player. We'll blow it up for you. So this interview was all about how she's breaking the mold as the 2nd overall pick, and she is just talking about how she is shedding stereotype, and the only 2 interesting things she has to say in this interview come at the beginning and the end. And at the beginning, she says there's a tired narrative that's vets against rookies, and they're actually on the same side. Little did you know. I mean, that's obvious to anybody who watches sports that, yes, they make the rookies pay for things. They haze them, but of course they're on their team, and generally they're going to actually get along because they want to win. Now, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, they have hid this question at the end, skipping past the Mattress Firm questions about her sponsorship. If in an interview anybody says, how is being on a Mattress Firm sponsored team going for you? How is it being the first person to be given a lifetime free supply of breakfast sausages from Johnsonville Sausages go? How does it feel to have dude wipes, as many as you could possibly fit in your bathroom? That's the writer trying to kiss the person's ass, and everybody does it. But that's just so you know, if any writer or interviewer mentions a direct sponsor for the person, you know, that's what that is. What keeps you up at night, they ask. It's the last two parts here. Finish this sentence, the reporter asks. I will not rest until ... She responds, I will not rest until the W, which is now what we're calling the WNBA, I guess, is even more iconic than it is now. We can get into why it's iconic now. It's only because of one player, but tra-la-la. What part do you play in that? Listen carefully to what Cameron Brink, the second overall draft pick in the WNBA's 2024 draft, has to say. I could go way deeper into this, but I would just say growing the fan base to support all types of players. I will acknowledge there's a privilege for the younger white players of the league. That's not always true, but there is a privilege that we have inherently, and the privilege of appearing feminine. Some of my teammates are more masculine. Some of my teammates go by they, them pronouns. I want to bring more acceptance to that and not just have people support us because of the way we look. I know I can feed into that because I like to dress femininely, but that's just me. I want everyone to be accepted, not just paid attention to because of how they look. Do you guys hear what she's saying? Do you hear what Cameron Brink is saying? Cameron's saying, you know, I'm a white girl, Caitlin Clark's a white girl, and we do have privilege, but not all the time. But I do want to put it out there that I've said that white girls have privilege. But the reason they have privilege is because we're pretty and the other lesbians are ugly. That's what she's saying. This girl is so desperate to say something woke, or maybe she's a master genius, I don't know. But it sounds to me she's so desperate to say something woke that she inherently called her teammates ugly, manly, and she was maybe a little racist about it too. I will acknowledge there's a privilege for younger white players of the league. That's not always true, but there is a privilege we have inherently. The privilege of appearing feminine. So what she's saying there is young white women appear feminine, and by that you can deduce that what she's saying is that women of other races are manly looking. And I don't think I'm getting that confused. Some of my teammates are, and then she goes further, some of my teammates are more masculine. So she's a young white woman, she looks feminine. Some of my teammates are manly looking, because that's what masculine means. Some of my teammates go by they, them pronouns. So they're androgynous looking as well. I want to bring more acceptance to that, and not just have people support us because of the way we look. That's another part. So she's saying everybody else manly, well, not everybody, but other players manly, can't tell if they're a boy or a girl, not white, masculine looking. She's young, white, and pretty, therefore she gets more attention. I want to bring more acceptance to that, not just have people support us because of the way we look. She's calling the other girls in the league ugly. So maybe this is just a based individual, an epic troll that we're witnessing here, but she's calling the other girls in the league ugly. And she says, I know I can feed into that because I like to dress femininely. It's not my fault, I just like to dress like a girl. That's not my fault. I feed into the fact that people don't like ugly girls by dressing like a girl. I feed into the fact that people don't like they, thems. But that's just me. I want everyone to be accepted, not just paid attention to because of how they look. So maybe she's trying to say that people should think that they, thems are pretty. Or that masculine looking women are pretty. But that's just not the case. And I think she knows that. I like to dress femininely, but that's just me. It's really weird. It's a really roundabout way to say that, you know, the white girls in this league that are young are more popular because we're not butch. That's what she's saying. And she's also admitting to the idea that women in the WNBA or female basketball players are popular when they're not ugly. And it's not for basketball. So I'm sorry if that upsets you. These weren't my words. This is Cameron Brink. She's 6'4". Not the highest demographic for people anyways in terms of men that want really tall girls. Tall men probably want that. But what she's saying is that it's not my fault. I'm young and I'm white, and y'all be butch lesbians who are unwhite. That's what she's saying, and it's wild that she's saying that. I'm not saying that. I would never say that. But she's one step away from saying, hey, you know what? I wish fat girls and the chubbier girls in women's softball were more liked by fans. It's not my fault. I'm not fat, but that's just how it goes. Basically what she's saying, right? You know, you're going to be more popular if you're a young white girl, but if you're not white and you're masculine and you go by they, them pronouns, you're not popular because you're unattractive, and we need to change that. We need to make it so that people like ugly women and want to pay to see them perform poorly at a sport. That's what we're all striving for. If we could eliminate the NFL and just put a bunch of unattractive women in football pads and watch them, you know, throw the ball much shorter, run less fast, and overall just give us a worse product. That's where Cameron Brink wants us to be. She wants a league full of ugly, masculine women who are probably lesbians and go by, you know, G's and Jers and Zays and Zems. And if we can do that, then we should all pay for that, and everybody who's pretending to like the WNBA because they like the way 4 girls look should then pay for that. That's the league we're going for. That's what Cameron Brink wants. Why should we deny her of that? Another thing, transitionary period, another thing we should not deny is that Star Wars can never be made worse, right? Now, if you're paying attention to Star Wars, which not many people besides the hardest core of nerds, and I wouldn't even say the people at Disney are paying attention to this because they're not, clearly. But if you are paying attention to Star Wars, you're noticing that they're making it worse and worse. You're noticing that Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilms, is doing exactly what South Park said she does. She's putting a chick in everything. She's making it lame and gay. And there is not anything that you can do to stop that. There's nothing you can do to stop Kathleen Kennedy from ruining everything. So already they said that they're going to make the next Star Wars movie about a female Jedi. And it's directed by a Canadian Pakistani woman who we all know is the key demographic for Star Wars. But, you know, you should be able to make a movie without... You don't have to be the person who looks like your typical audience member to make a good movie. But they said that that's going to be a feminist Star Wars. Now, they made a new Star Wars show called The Acolyte, and it's just full of feminist stuff again. So what they've done is they've made a whole bunch of new characters, and they got away with this by making it before Episode 1 is when this show takes place. Here it is now. We've got, of course, a bunch of young female Jedis, which are obviously always the focus in Star Wars. And then we fast forward. Looks like they're playing the same clip over again. So you may recognize this woman. This is not a clip from The Matrix. This is one of their new characters. It is the girl from The Matrix who played Trinity, Carrie Ann Moss. She is one of the new super cool, super badass, don't need no man Star Wars characters. And instead of coming up with anything original at all, they had her dress like the scene from The Matrix, which we'll also bring up, and do exactly what Keanu Reeves did in 1998 when they probably filmed it and when it came out in 1999. If you recall, Keanu Reeves here in The Matrix fighting, no, not Mace Windu, but Larry Fishburne. If you remember that scene from The Matrix, there's the very same girl there. So if you remember that scene from The Matrix, you will indeed notice that they have completely ripped off The Matrix for the new Star Wars movie. So she is some new badass Jedi, along with 17 other female Jedis. And this isn't even the tip of the iceberg of how they're ruining it. Of course, you've got the strong black female with all the other women in Star Wars. This is just the most masculine... You know, fans are clamoring for this. The freckly fat kid who lined up in 1999 to see Star Wars Episode 1 and cosplayed outside of it. Can't you see that this is exactly who that's for? But Carrie Ann Moss here, you see how they completely ripped it off, right? So they didn't even make any bones about it. They said that it was inspired by The Matrix. They said that she is practicing Force Fu. So they're ripping off a character with the same woman from the original movie and putting it in Star Wars. That's how lame we have become. That's why Kathleen Kennedy says put a chick in it, make it lame and gay. The director's gay. Her name is Leslie A. Headland. Of course, these are fake names that we create for the purpose of wanting to our daughters to grow up to be lesbians. Leslie A. Of course, we're going to pronounce it Leslie probably. Headland is the showrunner. The main girl's name is Amandla. You know, when people come up with these names for children, Leslie A. and Amandla, it's just like, I want my child's name to be SEO friendly. I want when people type my child's name in to Google for it to come up first. So let's type it Leslie A. I mean, this is legitimately what they're doing. I don't have a doubt in my mind. Why else are all these people with stupidly spelt names ending up in Hollywood if it was not to purposely make their name like this? Maybe it's not their birth name, but they are purposely making their names SEO friendly. The other girl's name is Amandla, and she is a Disney child actor, now adult with fake hair. So they make them the most powerful Jedis, the women, right? But there is a guy named Alan Ng who has seen the first 4 episodes. I believe the first 2 have already come out. But he said in the 3rd episode that they completely ruin the Star Wars lore. The 3rd episode of The Acolyte will finally kill Star Wars for the vast majority of pre-Disney Star Wars fans, based on Lucasfilm comments of late. They are okay with that, he said during a podcast. The Force is female. The Force is legitimately female when talking about the new episodes. He said they will fundamentally change the future of Star Wars. Now, does that negate the originals and the prequels? Not necessarily. I think we're just going to be more upset with what we were presented and the knowledge that this is the direction that Disney Star Wars is going to go from now on. So they're making it so in some way, shape, or form, and I'm sure we'll get an update in a week's time on the 4th episode on how this is going to go. About how exactly they're going to make Star Wars the newest and gayest thing. There was a second source who mentioned this. He goes by WDW Pro, you know how I feel about these people who won't show their faces or their names, but he said, and this guy's right all the time about leaks in Hollywood, Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie A. Headland are going to do something in The Acolyte that is going to essentially end what remaining fans they have. And that is that they're literally going to change the Force itself, into being literally female, the gender female Force. So whether that means they're going to make the Force a woman, or it's just going to be a pink floating mist that comes and calls you a bigot, or spells out #MeToo in the stars, I don't know. But that's what people are saying. The source who has relayed to me some stuff they believe will be so bad that there's nothing left to do except reboot Star Wars, and they think that Kathleen Kennedy cannot continue, or Star Wars cannot. And then we get into everything that Kathleen Kennedy has done. But here's a clip. These are the girls we're working with here. On the right, you'll see Leslie A. Headland, who is not the girl from Workaholics, which we'll bring up here. Let me find that. Because she looks strikingly similar to the cast of Workaholics. So let's just get that out of my head right now. Jillian Bell is her name. So it's not this woman. In fact, Jillian Bell appears to have lost weight, and Leslie A. Headland is just her former version. And then, of course, Amandla, don't call me Amanda Stenberg, who, you know, I don't know if she grew out her hair here, but she's got a lot of different hairstyles, and a lot of them aren't real, let's just say. Let's hear what they had to say in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, was it? No, The Rep, it's called.
To ask you both, because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you?
Nothing says Star Wars like a gay woman writing and directing it, being interviewed by a gay guy, talking about how awesome it is, how gay Star Wars is. Isn't that just how it works?
You
Not the
bracing
gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the.
It's pretty gay. Let's be honest. Leslie, how do you feel?
Am I gay?
Are you,
Yes.
Well, no, I know
Yeah.
you are gay, but I'm asking, are you excited about putting this, this is going to be a talking point.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure so.
I had no idea that making the majority of the characters in Star Wars women, while it's being directed by gay women and being produced by women, and the president of the studio is a woman, and talking about how everything needs to be womanly and how the fans are bigots and sexist. I had no idea that was going to be a talking point.
Because nerds are gay.
Well,
Yeah.
some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Okay.
See, I think this girl is just saying these people are gay. I think she's calling all this stuff. I think she's making fun of it. I think she's using the word gay the way normal people use it when they're making fun of something. She's not saying it's homosexual. I think she's just calling it gay.
Was this the fun element of
No, I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I'm frankly
You're offended?
into it. No.
I think that Star Wars is so gay already.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the fits? We'd be like, look how gay this is, and then send each other a reference photo.
And are you telling me with a straight face that C-3PO is straight?
Obviously, everyone thinks C-3PO is straight or gay, but listen to what she's saying. She's saying we're sending each other pictures how the outfits are so gay. So she's admitting here that they're trying to make everything be gay, and at the same time, she's just like, this shit's gay. You guys, like, obviously, this girl doesn't care at all about Star Wars. I mean, she's 20 years old. She should be easy to SEO search with a name like Amandla. Probably didn't grow up watching Star Wars. 1998. She's 26 years old, 25 years old. She's telling you it's gay, you guys. If Star Wars fans want to go out and be like, "Hey, let's give them chance number 68." The girl is both calling it literally homosexual, so is the writer, and then the main star is being like, "Hey guys, this shit's gay." We text each other back and forth and say, "This is gay. Nerds are gay," as in she's calling them losery. She thinks you're a loser. She thinks the thing is literally gay. She thinks it's figuratively gay. Everything they're saying is girl boss gay, girl boss morbidly obese, blue hair, girls run the world, everything's gay. And there will still be people who watch it.
reference photo.
And are you telling me with a straight face?
But this is more outward.
I think it's canon that R2-D2 is a lesbian.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ask Filoni. Okay.
Ask for
Can you
one.
imagine?
Yeah, talk to Filoni.
Great interview, you guys. Now, there's another one going around about her in on who's the terrible guy? Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah is the worst comedian on late night, I think. Right? There's another video of her talking to him. What is she saying? Yeah, white people crying is the goal. Let's see that one. And hopefully we don't get copyright stricken for that as well. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're an informative show, YouTube. We are talking to people. We are conducting transformative content here. It's not just straight ripping people's things. We're not just, reposting something then inverting it to subvert the copyright guidelines. We are discussing. We are intellectuals here on Andrew Says and Unauthorized Opinions. That's what we're doing. Don't let anybody tell you differently.
When people watch The Hate You Give, what do you want them to walk away with? Because I know everyone has a slightly different
Hair change, by the way. This girl's bald. Calling it right now, bald.
feeling.
Well, I mean, white people crying actually was the goal.
I think some fake applause clips chimes in there, but obviously, I mean, people circulated this, but obviously he had previously said, or one of them had previously said, that white people were crying about it, which of course is a stupid thing to say, which you can't get away with if it's the other way around. Probably can today. But this is a stupid clip because she's probably saying and agreeing with something that was said minutes or seconds ago, where said white people were crying about something, or he probably said, was the goal to make white people cry about this? And then she's doing what's called a callback in the comedy world. See that? And saying, well, the goal is actually to make white people cry. But that was weird. Listen here, and you can hear the applause track change from possibly real to fake, or it's just two different applause tracks.
It was the goal.
See, wasn't that really weird? Listen again.
Crying actually was the goal.
So maybe they turned up the volume, but I find it hard to believe that they just all of a sudden had a volume change. So that's what you're going to get with Star Wars. You're going to get make it lame and gay, everybody. And what can I tell you? You get what you vote for at this point. We'll see how that is. We'll see if it's... Who's it going to be? Are they going to have Whoopi Goldberg come out and be the Force? Or are they going to have Stacey Abrams? If they come out and say Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams is the Force, then can you argue with that? Can you not just say, they are just using this as a Democratic operative mechanism or an arm of the federal government to push propaganda on people? And I think that's more honest than what they're doing now. People talk about subverting major American brands and sending them into the ground. And I don't know if Kathleen Kennedy's being paid by George Soros, or if, demons come to her at night, or maybe somebody implanted a chip in her brain. All of that is hearsay and conjecture and not admissible in court. But there's a good argument for the idea that, let's destroy Budweiser, let's destroy Disney, let's destroy Star Wars. Anything that was predominantly pushed on straight white males, or even just iconically American, I think there's an argument for the idea that that needs to be destroyed. Because from not from my perspective, but the argument that it is being destroyed on purpose is the argument. And I think that comes from the idea that a lot of people don't seem to think that these places are choosing profit over ideology. And when you look at something like Star Wars, where for years now people have been complaining, it's hard to imagine that they're not destroying it on purpose. It's hard to imagine that at the very least this isn't somebody's ideological standpoint, or they're digging their heels in the ground on feminism and on diversity. Because it's like, who the hell's asking for this? If you put, anybody in an audience and said, tell me if this Star Wars is what you expected, who's going to say no? The only way they do this is they put these girls in front of them and they say, hey, I dare you to say that this is, too gay or too feminine or this, that, and the other. And then they connect it with vague Star Wars lore, and then people will make excuses for that. I know people who make excuses for stuff like that all the time. Well, it was always part of the story, or it's vaguely connected to the story. You know the game The Last of Us that they turned into a show? They turned that into a show, they took, a vague portion of the story where a guy had referenced that his boyfriend or husband had died. All it was in the game was the guy suggesting vaguely that he was married to a guy, right? And they took that little part and they gave that a whole episode in the series with Nick Masterson, the guy with the beard from Parks and Recreation, whatever his name is, Nick Offerman. I'm getting him confused with Danny Masterson, but they took that, made it a full episode with Nick Offerman, had a backstory about him and his gay lover. He comes out vehemently in defense of that. And then they hire a non-binary girl, air quotes for audio listeners, to play the main girl. And people will still say, oh, that's just part of the lore. Oh, it's fine. It's like people are actually writing this in on purpose. And a good test you can do, same with the Fallout thing. They put a girl with a mustache in the first episode. Here's a test you can do. If you come across a person who says, hey, it's just part of the lore, it has a loose connection to it, so it's fine that they did that. And you're going to get that pushback from like Gen Xers who think the type of person who's like thinks it's really cool and edgy for them to swear and not get too in depth into anything, like a Jon Stewart point of view, or if you're from Canada, a Dean Blundell point of view. Sort of like that whole like, what are you, a pussy, or what are you, a virgin? That type of person. What you could say is, if you were to write, let's say you could make a Star Wars about anything you wanted, would you just write a gay storyline in there? Would you take a storyline from The Matrix, rip it off, and instead of making it Keanu Reeves, make it the girl and make it Force Fu? Would you do that? If you could write anything about Star Wars you wanted, would you make it a female Jedi focused thing? Of course you wouldn't. Just as you wouldn't have people on TLC or 90 Day Fiance, what are the other things where they marry each other when they first see each other, all these other shows for girls, Love Island. Would they come out with a new series catered towards you? Would they come up with a new season where they say, instead of, morbidly obese lesbian women or a 300-pound girl from California marrying a guy from the Middle East, what if we added a baseball-playing straight guy who was really homophobic and was married to, a supermodel, and we cut to different scenes of professional wrestling and NFL football? Would they make that for you? No, they wouldn't. One, it would be weird and out of place, and two, it's not for their audience at all. But when they do it for Star Wars, and they do it for video game shows, and they do it for Fallout, and they say it's to appeal to people, no, it's to make sure that you know who's in charge. So when the girl with the mustache in Fallout comes on screen 45 minutes in, that's for them to signal, hey, we got you, Mang. Or in the first 15 minutes when they show a man's ass 3 times but the woman's fully clothed, that's to say, hey, we're in charge here. When they do a show and make a whole episode about a gay couple that wasn't in the game, that's saying, hey, remember who your rulers are. It's not just being like, oh, we'll just add that in for diversity. That's part of it. But so you know that this is the standard going forward. Not too long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they would come out and they'd say, this is how we want the world to be. And that's what Google's excuse was. When you would Google like a lawyer or you'd Google CEO, it'd be overwhelmingly like black, lesbian, female or whatever, right? For example. Or you Google family, it would be one race. Or if you Googled anything, they would show you the very small percentage of what the reality was. And they said that they wanted to represent how they thought the world should be. So they think the world should be, of course, equal outcomes, equity, all this crazy shit that doesn't actually work in real life because it's communism. They push that on you because they want that to be the norm. When you see a commercial and it's just like a black guy and a Chinese woman, but they have like an African-looking kid, that's them thinking, it doesn't matter how insane it seems, and it doesn't matter that that doesn't make sense. It matters that this is how you're supposed to see things. This is how it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to care about race so much that we need you to care exactly about race. We need you to care that certain races are in everything. So much so that we don't need to make it make sense. So nobody's saying, yeah, you can't have black people in commercials. Nobody says that. Nobody's saying you can't have Chinese people in commercials. But when they're doing commercials where it's like people with indiscernible foreign accents trying to sell people stuff in America, or they do like a white guy and a black girl with a Chinese kid, so stuff that makes sense, which actually showcases that they're the racist ones because, they think other people can't tell the difference or that they shouldn't. That's them saying, hey, this is what the world's supposed to be, and we're going to hammer history so hard that we hope to change it. That's the weird creepiness. Like, they don't want you to deal with reality. They want to force history and force references to be what they want you to be. That's why be what they want it to be. That's why they manipulate Google results. That's why they force things into shows to be like all the exact same demographics, even though it doesn't make sense. They force that on you in this weird Western communist purview, even though nobody else would do that for you. And it's really weird. We're not asking other people to do it for us. But if you went to Japan, or you went to China, or you went to India, or you went to Iran, and you said, this commercial needs to have 25% white, black, Chinese, and Congolese people, they'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? We're 95% Chinese. What the hell is wrong with you? We're 98% Sri Lankan. You know what I'm saying? So forcing the weird Western view on the other people doesn't work, just like forcing the weird feminist view on other people doesn't work. But here they say it's mandatory. It doesn't go the other way around. They don't do things for you. They don't put the professional wrestling and the kickboxers in 90 Day Fiance, but they want you to put the blue-haired lesbians in Star Wars. That is my TED Talk, you guys. Patreon.com/UOPod is where you can find bonus content and help out the podcast, of course. You can help us become Joe Rogan, which means our podcast will grow just as large as Joe Rogan's, and I know that's exactly what you want us to do. And then also, of course, you can find yourself becoming a super fan for $15 per month. The picture there used is the Toronto Raptors super fan. He has somehow been able to afford going to a Raptors game courtside every year since its existence, and nobody knows how he's able to afford that. You can also become an unauthorized person for $40 a month, and you'll get to suggest podcast topics, video topics. You can get lots of stuff. That way we have done certain topics and certain episodes based on what patrons have suggested in the past. So that's patreon.com/UOPod. We hope to see you there. And of course, at the same time, we've got content for you on Blaydes Media at theblaydes.com. You can see my paywalled stuff there. It's only $3 a month. And what will you get there, you ask? You'll get some originals. And I've been talking to a lot of comedians like Sam Walker, who you can see is ridiculous and awesome at the same time. But he gives answers about how he was shut down. He was protested for doing jokes about a serial killer, which is crazy, of course. And nobody seems to have a problem with that. You'll get those comedy specials. I just did one with Ty Rivera, comedian. I've done one with Michael Ridley, who you see in the intro, Leonardo Joni, other guys from the Danger Cats, Sam Tripoli. So you get that sort of stuff. If you also sign up for Blaydes Media's premium paywall stuff, you can get stuff like this. A list of the NFL teams that are not virtue signaling. That article is blown up because people want to know how gay exactly their NFL team is. Hashtag Pride Month every single month, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. So go ahead and check out our Patreon stuff. Go ahead and check out our Blaydes Media stuff, and we will see you there. Welcome back from the commercial break, you guys. Did you hear what the Pope said? You didn't. Well, you're in luck. The Pope is homophobic and bigoted, is what they're saying. Pope Francis allegedly uses offensive slur in a meeting during a discussion about gay men. So what happened is the Pope had a meeting with all his cardinals, as we call them. And it makes you wonder who's leaking information from the Pope meetings with their cardinals, with his cardinals. It's really strange that that happens. You would think that these people take a long time to become cardinals, and then they're just leaking shit to the media. It's a really strange thing to do. So Pope Francis allegedly used an offensive slur during a discussion with bishops who were admitting homosexual men into seminaries, several Italian newspapers have reported. So he's having a meeting with them about should they allow gay guys to be priests, which their stance is still no. But the Pope made an an oopsie, and allegedly made a remark in a closed-door meeting discussing whether gay men should be admitted into Catholic cemeteries where priests are trained, a topic that Italian Bishops' Conference is said to have been pondering for some time. During the discussion, one of the bishops asked the singular Pope Francis, what he should do. The Pope reportedly reiterated his objection to admitting gay men, saying that while it is important to embrace everyone, it was likely that a gay person could risk leading a double life. So what he was saying there was, you know, it's kind of a risk to have a gay guy, and this is not even a joke, but this is what he said, allegedly, that it's kind of a risk having a gay guy around a bunch of other priests because he's attracted to men, and he's probably going to try to be gay with the other men. Whereas you have a straight guy around a bunch of straight guys, it's less likely. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. Hence prisons, where, you know, that sort of stuff that happens in prisons happens. etc., etc. But that's what he's talking about there, just for reference. He is then alleged to have added that there was already too much fracciagini, a vulgar Italian word that roughly translates to faggotness in some seminaries. That's a quote. Spotify, YouTube, X probably doesn't care. Rumble probably doesn't care. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google. That's a quote. Fracciagini. I've also heard this thing quoted by the Pope to translate to faggotry as well. So we've got faggotness and faggotry, not to be confused with faggots and peas in England, which Lewis Brackpool tells us is a delicious treat, and not to be confused with having and smoking a fag in England. This is the Pope saying fracciagini. There's too much of that, and there's too much faggotness in the churches or the seminaries already, he says. The source was first reported by the political gossip website Dagospia before being covered by the Italian dailies La Repubblica and Corriere della Sera, the news agency, and Kronos. Bad names. Repubblica and Tralala quoted unnamed bishops who said that the pontiff meant to the derogatory term as a joke, and that those around him were surprised and perplexed by the alleged slur. So it sounds to me like they're going for super liberalism in the Vatican as well. If you're telling me, which I don't believe, that other cardinals who are strict Catholics and obviously don't believe in homosexuality or agree with it are shocked and appalled by the Pope saying that things were getting too gay anyways, I don't believe you. Since he was elected, Pope Francis has sought to adopt more inclusive tone towards the alphabet community in his public statements, much to the disdain of conservative cardinals. How are there conservative cardinals and how are there liberal cardinals? You know, that's not something you actually get in other religions. You don't get a Muslim imam who's kind of into gay people, who's kind of into having women in there. And if you do, I realize that can't be an absolute statement, but what I'm saying is it just isn't allowed. It's not, you don't get to just have conservative cardinals and liberal cardinals. In terms of changing your own doctrine, I'm sure throughout history, and I know throughout history, there's been more liberal popes politically and more conservative popes politically. See any wars or the papal states. But what I'm talking about, when it comes to your religious doctrine, the thing that sort of intertwines your beliefs and your viewpoint of the world. How are you just like, it's okay to change that now? You've gone a couple thousand years by saying, hey, this is the word of God and his disciples and his messengers, and you cannot change this because it is literally from God. But let's go ahead and change it. I mean, that's something, I had a couple friends in the military. Two of them were Muslim. They were African guys. And they would say, one of the things that I like more about my religion, that being Islam versus Christianity, for example, is that we don't change the Quran and we don't apologize for it. And I was like, that's an interesting point. And he said, and I could be wrong. I have a Quran. I'm not Islamic or Muslim. But I could be wrong, but I don't think they've ever changed it. Whereas there's, to the best of their ability, they probably have. I mean, I'm sure different rulers have changed it. I could be wrong, but if it were true, and this was his understanding, is that they don't change it for people, whereas, you get the King James Version, you get the other versions of the Bible, and you get people who are cardinals saying, hey, let's let gay people in. It's weird that you would have this belief based on what you think is the word of God, and then you just change it. And then you're just like, okay, this is supposed to be eternal word and lifelong wisdom, but let's just change it. That seems weird to me. The Pope ruled in December to allow priests to bless unmarried and same-sex couples in what was a significant change of position for the Catholic Church. See, that's the problem with saying that the Pope has direct contact with God, because then he could say, well, God told me to change this. He has been clear about not allowing gay people to join the clergy. In an interview in 2018, he said he was concerned about what he describes as the serious issue of homosexuality, and that being gay is a fashion to which the clergy is susceptible. In our societies, it even seems that homosexuality is fashionable, and that mentality in some way also influences the life of the church. the Roman Catholic Church's position on that homosexual acts are sinful, a decree on training for priests in 2016 stressed the obligation of sexual abstinence, as well as barring gay men and those who support gay culture from holy orders. So what he was saying in that alleged meeting that he had was that, it's going to be hard for a guy who's gay to be a priest because you're supposed to be abstinent as a priest, but you're around people that you're attracted to, which I think is a fair point. If you have a guy going for a nunship, for example, in the nunnery, and you have a guy practices abstinence around a bunch of nuns, it's going to be more difficult than a woman practicing abstinence around a bunch of people that she is not attracted to. So that's that, Speaking of gay pride, there was a conservative candidate. I'm just Xing a bunch of things now. Watch out. If you guys didn't know, your browsers that you keep open, your tabs take up a lot of memory. A conservative candidate in Canada dropped out of an election because somebody unearthed some of his previous tweets, his X posts, and it was because he was against furries, among many of the things. So this guy's name is Damon Scrace, and he's a bit of a disgrace, am I right? And he's in a very progressive area in British Columbia, and he's now a former candidate, and the party erased his name from the website after he appeared to voluntarily drop out of the race in the Courtenay-Comox, British Columbia riding. The recently established electoral district has seen just 2 provincial elections. Both were won by representatives of the furthest left-wing party in Canada, the New Democratic Party, the NDP. And it wasn't because, it's a very left-wing area that he dropped out. A radio host named Josh Johal, nice Canadian name there, took issues with at least 4 instances where Scrace was critical of pride parades. The first post showed Scrace criticized public indecency. And so there was a bunch of Twitter posts that this guy unearthed, and this caused him, remind you before we read any of these, that these posts caused him to voluntarily, as far as you want to believe that, bow out of a political race because he made posts 2 years ago. These are posts just from 2022. He said, degenerates were given tacit license to break public indecency laws at pride parades. It's been invalidating the Love is Love movement for over a decade. Sad because the result is countless children being memed into doubting their sexualities and truth of gender binary. Postmodernity and its decadent beliefs exacerbated by social media is a mental illness factory. He goes on in another statement. Here's the thing with pride. It was supposed to be about love, and that is why it went mainstream. Since 2012, it has become a celebration of fringe sexuality, where phallus-themed food is sold on every corner and perverts expose themselves to kids for kicks. It won't last. Also true. And here is another one that he posted. I don't believe this is her photo, from known truth teller Kingsley Wilson. You may live to see man-made horrors beyond your comprehension. So he retweeted that, and he even went to say, this isn't true, plus there are plenty of bad actors in the LMNOP community, not to mention the most common gay fetish is seducing straight people. Denying this would make you a bad faith actor. Source, plenty of gay friends who disagree with genital mutilation. So this guy came out and he said he thinks pride is overdone. There's lots of perverts walking around naked during it. Children shouldn't be exposed to it. He, I guess, made fun of furries in a tweet that was an image of weird naked men, near naked men in dog masks talking to a little girl, and said that he's against genital mutilation and that gay people like seducing straight people. These are the harmful and bigoted things he said, and that caused him to drop out, which means he never would have made it anyways, folks. He never would have been what you wanted him to be, so it doesn't really matter. But there's this weird thing that people do in the Conservative Party in Canada, and they do it in the Republicans too, but vastly more popular thing to do in Canada, that you got to get the people who hate you to love you. That's their goal. If you can't get liberals on Twitter to love you, or in this case, some crappy radio station out in British Columbia, what's he on that nobody listens to? Josh Johal. And you can always trust a guy whose picture is this. Always very trustworthy. Doesn't want to show his face, even though he's a news figure. and an entertainment personality. He was working in China, which is always a good thing. He worked in New Delhi and Beijing, and he's a radio host and former politician. You should listen to him. Listen to a former politician who worked in China and India and now lives in British Columbia. Listen to him about your conservative candidates. That's what you guys should do. So there's this weird thing, in Canada where they say, I need liberals to love me, and if I say anything that they can consider mean, then I probably shouldn't be running for government, because they have this weird obsession in Canada with being dishonest. They want, and I've heard this from conservatives directly, get in office and then you can do what you want. Basically, lie to get into office and then try to do what you want. The thing is, they never do what they say they're going to do. They just lie. It's sort of like when people say, just deal with the DEI, get the job, and just put that pronoun in your email signature, and then you don't have to talk about it anymore. Just do the thing. Just get brainwashed. Go along with the brainwashing, and then we'll deal with it later. 2025, maybe 2028. We'll deal with it eventually. Things can't be that bad, can they? So yeah, you'll notice that a lot. The whole, lie to get people to like you, or admit that you're being mean and drop out to be a good guy. Maybe he thought that this was the tip of the iceberg. Maybe he thought that he couldn't cut it because worse things were to come. But maybe he thought, if this was already happening, then I have no chance. But dude, grow a sack, grow something. Let's stop apologizing for saying things that are obviously true. Like, gay people agree all the time that you shouldn't be doing that stuff. Gay people agree all the time that you shouldn't be nude in front of kids. It's sort of how society was up until like a minute ago, where nobody had a problem with gay people living and doing what they wanted, or even, transgender people, or even drag queens. Nobody had a problem with this until you started saying, hey, you need to do it more, and it needs to be in front of your kids. We need your kids. We got to do it, eh? That's almost as if that's true. Let's close on a bit of UFC magic. Over in the UFC, there's a heavyweight title fight coming soon with Curtis Blaydes. He is a 6'4" beast who wrestles a lot. He is facing the Englishman Tom Aspinall, who's technically the interim champion because John Jones was injured. And the reason why this is news is because Curtis Blaydes came out and he said, if I was a foreign guy, then they'd promote me more. And there's a little bit of nuance to that, so let's hear what he had to say.
I was an option.
What about Cyril Gahn? It comes out that they asked him too, right? So how do you feel about them asking him? And apparently he turned it down because he had a movie.
I'm not surprised. I've been saying for like 2 years now, he gets what he gets because he's French. He brings in all the French fans. If I was a Jamaican or German or just anything but just your standard American, I would be getting more of a push. And I don't mind it. We know what it is. It's business. It's the marketing, and that's fine. I'm happy he turned it down. I have no idea why he would turn it down, even if he is winning a movie. I highly doubt they want to pay him what you're gonna get paid for a title shot. But whatever. I'm just happy that I get this opportunity.
So what he's saying is that if he was, a Cuban guy, maybe not Cuban, but like he said, if he was English or Jamaican or something, if he had another nationality that he could push out there, the UFC could market him in a gigantic way if he was the champion. And Cyril Gahn was the champion, and he has headlined the only 2 cards that have ever been in Paris, France before. Just like when they have, a New Zealand guy or Israel Adesanya, who claims to be from West Africa, and of course the South African guy. The Mexican fighters, English, Irish, it goes on and on like that, right? But what it does reveal also is that there's this weird little thing that happens in the UFC where people want to claim another culture to benefit off of it, even though they're in America. And this happens a lot. There's a lot of guys who come out with African flags who, have spent a minute in Africa. Very topical thing to do right now is, Bilal Muhammad is a guy who's come out with a Palestine flag for years, even though he's from Chicago. And it's like, bro, go there then. if it's so important to you. But it's weird when you live in America and benefit off of it, and you're just happily flying another flag out there. Happens a lot. The foreigners who do it the least are Brazilians, frankly. Now, Brazilian in Brazil gets so much support from Brazil. And when they leave Brazil and decide to live in America, they get hated a lot by Brazilian fans. So you'll see a lot of Brazilians who come to the U.S. who completely embrace American culture. And you'll see people who come to the U.S. who want to carry their old flag out. They want to carry a Morocco flag, or they want to carry, a Kazakhstanian flag, or wherever it may be from. Flags that don't even exist anymore. They'll do sometimes. But you'll see that people are searching for that other identity, and sometimes it's for, super stupid social justice reasons like Bilal Muhammad, and other reasons like they think it's cool to have this identity where they're West African even though they're Australian and from New Zealand, and it's just cool, this liberal point of view where, where I'm from actually sucks even though it's better here, and it's cool to rep a place that I have almost no connection to, but it's not here, it's not America, it's not Australia, so therefore liberals see it as better. That happens a lot. But what also happens is people doing it for marketing purposes because of this reason. Because if you're Jamaican, you can have a country behind you. Because if you're Conor McGregor, who's actually from Ireland, though, a country gets behind you. Russians, French, etc. If a big-name guy from a country that has never had a UFC event in his country gets a championship, he's going to make 10 times the money because all of a sudden you've justified an event in your country, merchandise, pay-per-views, all these other things. And then I think they've done that with China. They've done that with West African guys. They've done that with French people, Ireland, England. I think they're trying to do that with Japan now. They've had Japanese and Korean guys come up a little bit. And I think they're trying to do that with Japan now. I think they're trying to find like the new Japanese guy who can really do it for them. GSP in Canada, So what Curtis Blaydes is saying is that if he was foreign, he'd get another push, but he understands why. And that reason is because of marketability. But when that reason is specifically a person pretending that they're like have a deep heritage and connection with another country, I think we can all agree that's pretty disingenuous. And I don't think anybody can support that. So shout out to Curtis Blaydes. He would lose to John Jones if he fought him. He could beat Aspinall, but everybody really likes Aspinall these days. He's got a big skull on him. Thanks for joining us. Again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/UOPod. We're here with you every single week. You can catch us on The Blaze at theblaze.com, and you can see my author page is the word I'm looking for as I grunt through that. And, of course, catch me on X. Thanks for listening on YouTube, Rumble. We love you, Rumble. And Spotify, we love you. And all the other podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a review. Don't forget to hit those 5 stars on your audio platforms. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, uopod.com. We love you guys. We love you long time. The Pope, everybody.
Turn it up, Jordan.